Hello, welcome to your reading. Let's get right into it. Okay, so I have everything hidden. Esme, are you gonna come help later? Okay, come within the first 20, 30, okay, Esme? Oh my God, why did you take the edamame for my sushi? Esme, don't play with edamame. How did they get it? Bad, Esme. Headaches don't join the fun. Or the terrorism. Okay. All right, I'm gonna go off camera and get into my trance. There's the chart. Look at all that water. Okay, where's my meditation crystal? These two. So I always like to start with the south node and north node. I'm looking. So you're very, very creative soul. You have lots of artistic, imaginative, lots of gifts when it comes to creativity, which is such a blessing because it's also about just the energy you bring as a soul. It's like an openness, an ability to be yourself and to create beauty. So with your South Node in Libra and a nice aspect to Uranus, a nice aspect to Venus, another kind of mini theme is that you'll have lots of karmic lovers that will help you on your nodal journey from Libra to Aries. So the South Node represents your karmic tendency, kind of like the been there, done that, and you're trying to move towards your North Node. So the North Node in Aries, South Node in Libra, a lot of times the big lesson is around boundaries. The big lesson is around not being codependent and finding the right balance between, in relationships between giving too much and giving too little, between compromise, learning to compromise while still, Esme, get out of my, you're a bad girl. Stop. Stop. Stop it, Esme. If you go back to your timeout for 35 minutes. Esme, don't go back. Okay. So yeah, it's really Aries is the it's you're really learning to be a badass in this lifetime, not to be cliche. And in past lives, it's likely that relationship held you back. Like it's time. It's not bad. It's time. Oh my God, you're in timeout, Esme. Bad, bad, Esme. Good job, Mika. Yeah, you're for once not stealing. Okay, she's out of the room. I can actually Fucking concentrate. So a lot of times, South Node in Libra, especially with those aspects I saw, would indicate someone who, because they may lack boundaries and they may allow themselves to enter relationships that hold them back from their creative goals. Now, when I think of what is creativity, it's not just drawing a painting, it's we're all creators of our own life. And of course, relationships are a valuable part of life, but also we have a birth chart, a natal chart, an individual chart for a reason. So the 12th house south node, the 6th house south node is the journey from, it's about learning, it's also about boundaries, energetic boundaries. And it's about, it could be the person who had all this creative potential in past life, like I just said, but they had all the ideas, but maybe not the follow through. Maybe there's a lack of self-belief, right? There could be a million different potentials, but the 6th house north node in Aries is about, it's Libra, it's high Aries and high Virgo energy. So it's about understanding what it takes to get to a certain goal, the step by step. It's about your physical body and your routine, health routine, and really, really taking care of that. And, you have no earth in your chart. So I don't either. I know many people that do not. And, it just becomes a challenge, right? The idea of consistency, the idea of waking up each day and feeling like a similar version of yourself is difficult, right? So that's the challenge here when you lack earth is how can I be consistent? Like a tree that despite the weather, it doesn't break. Lacking earth and air. Most is in water. Although actually, no, you have air. You have Mars and Aquarius. You have mostly everything in Scorpio. You have so much Scorpio. Holy shit. Well, yeah, you have your ascendant, sun, moon, Venus. So you have 5 of your 6 personal planets in one sign. That's crazy. That's one of the most, yeah, you are like one of the most Scorpio people I've ever seen. Let's see, is Pluto doing anything? Well, yeah, and besides it's conjuncting 3 of those planets, but yeah, it's there. Pluto's there. Pluto's rising on top of everything. Whew. Wow. Well, so when you have so much in one sign, there's a lack in the others. Excuse me, in one sign slash one element. So while water is great for intuition, it's great for compassion, it's great for being able to feel the undertones and it creates natural psychologists and the natural occultist, the witch, the sorcerer, sorceress, missing out on fire when your north node is in fire means that the energy that you're trying, that you have to like really go the extra mile to to find your passions. It doesn't just come easy. The person that lacks fire, it doesn't just come easy for them to just find their passions, right? And to, begin, yeah, to really begin things, right? Self-starting can be difficult. Although Scorpio is a water sign, but it's ruled by Pluto and co-ruled by Mars. So it's kind of almost, some people like to describe Scorpio as like a fiery water sign because it's obviously a lot more assertive than having, all these planets in Pisces or Cancer. Then you'd be a real pushover. But Scorpio is an interesting sign, transformational sign, intense sign. And when you're very intense, sometimes it can be difficult for people to, like not everyone can handle the intensity. But we'll get into the Scorpio stuff in a little bit. I want to just talk about this elemental stuff because when you don't have elements, it's not like anything like you're screwed. It's just like you have to figure out strategies to make up for them. So no fire, you have to really push yourself to do things. Lacking earth, you have to push yourself to especially with your north node in a fire sign earth house, you have to push yourself to make a list, to organize your life, to be consistent. And Saturn's unaspected, so it's not, you're not getting any help from Saturn. So yeah, um, it's not a bad thing. It's just that, sometimes if you still have no Earth, or you have like Saturn and sextile, like I have that, like I have no Earth, I have Saturn sextile my Sun and my Moon, my Mercury. So yeah, you really have to kind of go the extra mile in that sense. You do, yeah, you have, yeah, okay. So lacking Earth, like I said, for the Earth people who lack Earth, it can really feel like each day is a new battle. When it comes to like, how some people can just wake up each day and they feel like a similar version of themselves, right? Like they feel like it's not like, and you sometimes they can be a little bit boring too. Not always, but they have that consistency, which sometimes it's jealous. One can become jealous, right? Like I get jealous of it sometimes. I don't get jealous. That's the wrong word, but I envy that, right? Like, I mean, I don't know, part of me. I'm not saying that I think like, I wish I could just wake up and be exactly the same each day, but it'd be nice to have a level of consistency, Um, it would be nice. It would be nice for sure. So it really for the earthless person, it takes them, it's really good to get outside, to hike if you can, to get into nature, and to like doing breath work. I know you have your Mars and air, but like you essentially have like everything in Scorpio, like mostly everything. So you know doing breath work, and the one thing you'll be very good at is, well, it's actually interesting because I've had charts like this where you expect the person to be completely unbalanced if you're just looking at it from that perspective, but and unbalanced slash um just like overly Scorpio and completely missing out on the other elements. But I don't know. I think that we have to really get down to the root of why you have all this Scorpio. There's always an answer, or at least the hypothesis, right? So if I told you about how in your past lives that there's this tendency to kind of be a little bit unassertive, and you're here to learn assertiveness and independence. Well, the fact that you have all this Scorpio, you're here. Scorpio as a sign is all about death, rebirth, transformation. Very, very loaded 3 words. And death obviously is, metaphoric for the most part. It's not like, I mean, sometimes Scorpios do learn about death. But like who the fuck doesn't? But it does make them very, very interested in the esoteric and studies of life, understanding the unseen and the underground areas of life. But really, death, rebirth, transformation refers to, it refers to the process of letting parts of ourselves go that are no longer serving us. And there's a level of, it's not easy. It sounds so much easier than it is. It's very hard, especially if you have something good, right? Because the opposite sign of Scorpio is Taurus. So sometimes to learn about one sign, we can look at the opposite. It's the same energy, but the opposite. And Taurus is notorious for holding on to different things in its life that it really doesn't need to hold on to. And Scorpio is about allowing, so through the death, rebirth, transformation, it's like when you allow parts of yourself that are no longer needed to die, you make that can be people, it can be, because Scorpio is very deeply psychological, ruled by Pluto. It's the depths, right? So it can be unconscious tendencies, emotional tendencies. It could be about, it's also really, really, really related to shadow work, the sign of Scorpio. So, that's a big one. But there's definitely that need for letting go in some way. So, you know, just always remembering the word surrender, and just like how there's going to be karmic situations that will always come up in your life, even like, like Pluto is also about crises, so karmic crises that will come up, and you'll have the choice of, do I want to go with my ego, or do I want to go with my soul? With what my ego wants, or with what my soul needs. And that is the big thing with Pluto / Scorpio. So yeah, you have one of these charts that I see a lot of famous people have, to be honest. They got like a lot of planets like in like back to back to back houses. I see it's a good amount. I mean, a lot of times it's like, more like over. Well, yeah, it depends. Like it's random. Not random. It's just, concentrated energy. So here's the big thing I see, right? Your North Node's in Aries, which is the first sign, that first related to the first house, and all of your Scorpio massive stellium is in the first house. So that is the big life purpose. Just and as a whole, it's to really, really define who you are as an authentic being, and to, as I said before, to move away from from that conditioning, and from that potential tendency of giving into things, relationships and whatnot. So I'm not trying to say like you can't have relationships. I'm just saying that they need to, they need to align with your, with your independence. And I think it's very synchronistic. I'm having so many clients come to me right now that I have this kind of message for, because as we enter the age of Pluto and Aquarius, I think this is going to become more the norm, right? Independence and authenticity. I think there's going to be, I think a lot of like the traditional way of relating is going to be, I mean, I think that there'll always be aspects that stay, and there's different styles for different folks, but I think that there's, you know, individualism is going to becoming is becoming and going to be continue becoming more and more important. And on the, yeah, like especially for like people who are trying to become better versions of themselves through spirituality or whatnot. But yeah, so first house is about identity. Also, people who have strong first houses, they have very strong presences. So having a very, massive first house in Scorpio, I wouldn't be surprised if you were someone who, others described as intense. And that, with your Venus there and your sun, your moon conjunct, so you're born on a new moon. So just like a new moon is a new journey for the soul, that's exactly what's happening for you. Your soul is taking a new, it's a new time, it's a new era for your soul in this lifetime, and a lot of free will. And through that also comes, there's some people where, their soul's really been working on something for many lifetimes, and other people, when I see the new moon, I'm like, all right, well, the soul is here. It's kind of turned the page, probably in, I don't like to say like the last lifetime, like I know, but and right now it's turning the page in this lifetime. And speaking of turning the page, what sign is all about turning the page? Scorpio. Scorpio is all about turning the page. So, you and when you have a Scorpio rising already, like I said, with Pluto rising in Scorpio, you'll come off with an energy that is very, just like, it can be a lot for people, right? It can be a lot, and people don't necessarily know what to do with it. And when I say it can be a lot, it's like you see everything. It gives you that wide open third eye, and you're extremely strong. And people who are who identify very strongly with their egos will be scared of you. They'll be threatened by you. And then, there could be like lots of jealousy. because there's this intense capacity for penetrating to the core of whatever, you know, whatever whatever dynamics exist in a given situation, anything you're involved in, you can really just deeply sense the emotional, energetic undercurrents. And you're not, like an evolved Scorpio is someone, they I wrote this post the other day about Scorpio, but they are the truth. They don't lie. A lot of Scorpios are incapable of lying, and they get a bad rep sometimes because they don't take shit, you know, and they never forget, as you know about Scorpio. Um, and because like some people want to like live in this life and pretend like everything's all, like they want to have like an over idealistic view of life, and then they'll be like, oh, Scorpio's negative. But it's like, okay, I hear you. They can be cynical, but oftentimes that's really just reflecting the reality. So the Pluto rising person is a natural born leader. There's someone who is meant to, as I said, shake things up. They had that appeal. They had that ability. And it's kind of apparent in their way of, even how they look, right? So they often have like very, very deep eyes, soulful eyes. Scorpio is the old soul as well. Scorpio risings. It's not their first rodeo. And when you have Pluto on your ascendant, you kind of carry the zeitgeist on your face. So shadow work becomes like a big part of your personality, and you're able to really also, you know, through your own journeys within your own darkness, your own underworld, right? Which would most likely be themes, especially, early in life too. You're able to assist others, which makes you the healer. And one thing about all this Scorpio energy is that when you get into something, you become obsessed. You have that capacity, which does kind of make up for some of the lack of fire. So there's a lot of ambition there, where one can become like fully invested in something, whether it's learning a subject, whatever it might be. And yeah, but like the same obsession, right? And passionate obsession can come around in love. So in relationships, it's really important to find someone who can match your level of intensity, or at least like understanding and grounded and whatnot. So yeah, the importance like as a Mars and Aquarius, you strive to be very independent and to be very individualistic. Um, Wait, did I see? Oh, I said Venus was with your nose as Mars. I saw that wrong. And Chiron. So, um, Yeah, like you have like some real, yeah, some real, like you're probably someone who's able to really be their own person and not like get too tripped up on conditioning and whatnot. With Pluto, Scorpio, there can be this all or nothing energy too. And that's where, you know, there can be, these very, very intense and differentiated periods of time, eras. The Scorpionian person has eras where they look back on themselves at different times in their life, and it's almost like they cannot recognize that person. They cannot, they because the death rebirth transformation is literally the snake shedding the skin through their dark night of the soul. Not everyone goes on these dark nights of the soul, and then they look back on themselves. And I say this so many times, I'm probably gonna stop saying it. I've said in so many readings, and I just can't say the same things that many times. But it's just so accurate. It's like they can start to feel, like look at an older version of themselves and think like, wow, that was like an actress playing me. I cannot recognize that person. So yeah, and another thing is that like people notice you as with that Scorpio Pluto rising, like you walk into a room, you have this commanding power, even if you don't, like sometimes Scorpio risings, they observe, but just know that people notice you, right? The energetic aura is very strong and people notice you. Um, Irregardless of whether you are vocal or just kind of chilling. But a lot of Scorpio risings will be more of the observers and kind of prefer to take their time and really, really just analyze and feel out the environment. But with Pluto, yeah, like it's like I said, it makes one a very transformative leader. And with your Mars in Aquarius, you have this great drive for um humanitarianism and being different and thinking outside the box. Now, with the Sun conjunct Moon on Alpheka, talk about that later, and then Venus with the Moon, that is beautiful. Um, that gives like a really great intuition. And it definitely adds like a nice feminine, beautiful, attractive energy to the internal emotional state, emotional psyche, like the emotional being, which Scorpio moon is not easy, right? Because the person can be very cynical. I mean, at a young age, they're often, because it is with Pluto too, you have, it could have been both parents that you may have experienced as there could have been some trauma or just like experiencing them as dominant, overbearing. But really there's a lot to do with the bloodline here. And you do have Mars in your fourth, so that tends to point out a volcanic upbringing, right? Where there's maybe not always, where there's maybe some fighting or just like some kind of like, yeah, volcanic energy in the upbringing. Mika, the fuck, Mika, don't jump on my computer. So yeah, the moon, yeah, the moon, yeah. I mean, it kind of has like a, yeah, it's kind of a dual energy. Um, but yeah, like gaining. So the way that you gain this independence and this freedom associated with your North Node is through your shadow work. And the more, it's like, imagine you come in this lifetime with a certain energetic load and a certain potential tendency towards, you know, like having issues with boundaries, right? When that's the case, you know, it can be very hard to say no, and then you're in a situation that you don't, you know, that you would rather not invest so much time in. And it's like, if you think about your life, like, how light can I get, how light can I get the energetic load to become, right? That is why sometimes I say, for like very Scorpio people, the idea of living away from, you know, people who are, I guess, you know, asking a lot of them, can be very good. Um, because you know, they definitely require very introverted, and it's not easy for Scorpio energy to just, they're the least last sign that's gonna just like blindly trust, as you know, right? So to have the sun and the moon there, the moon, it, you know, it just, I don't know, I just imagine that, like, as a kid needing a very, very, you know, needing a lot of nurturing, and you know, Pluto, like I said, people, a lot of my clients have this Hades moon, right? And it's very linked to the mother, you know, mother in this case, you know, sun and moon. It could be both parents having this sort of, you know, over, like, this overbearing energy, potential trauma passed on generation to generation. And you being, like, you know, my client is the person who is here to break the curse. Yeah, Esme. So, yeah, um, that definitely requires some regression work, and, you know, going within the self and figuring things out. And yeah, so like, you can gauge your success in life based on how how much or how little you um just lost my train of- you can gauge your success based on, it's not about how much or how little, it's about, you know, your energetic load, you know, how much lighter your energetic body feels, how much lighter your life feels. Now, I have to say that um with also adding that, because there's so much Scorpio, mm, I guess that's actually kind of a tough statement to make, because there's gonna be, you know, there is gonna be like crises that you're meant to go through. You know, it's not meant to just be peaches and all that, like, all the time. You know, there's gonna be setbacks, and there's gonna be times that aren't easy. So it really comes down to how you deal with those times. But, you know, you can kind of feel, in the grand scheme of things, in the grand scheme of all of your life, you can sort of feel like, you know, how much of like the real heaviness have I stripped, and that comes from that intense work. Okay, here's Esme. So I'll turn the camera on so you can get the magical cat. Okay, here it comes again. She's got let out timeout. I said 35 minutes is exactly 35 minutes. I even plan. Okay, Esme, do the thing where you look at the planet that's important to look at. Look, Esme, look at the planet. What are you doing, Esme? Esme, you never do this. Help me. Okay, one more try. You've never failed in 15. Please look at the planet. What the heck, Esme? You've never not done this. Oh my God. Go away. Bad girl. Esme, what's wrong with you? She's probably mad that I locked her up. She'll come back. Okay, I want to go back to. Anyways, yeah. So that's the big thing in relationships. Um, we'll actually, like, with the Scorpio moon, right? It's they need people around. It's very relational. So Scorpio is very relational, with the Venus and the moon. And yeah, so it's, with friends and people in general, there needs to be a level of people who can handle intensity, people who can handle, like, you with all of your emotions, right? Like, you're not going to want to be really close with someone. With Scorpio, the mantra is like fewer but better when it comes to friends. And it's not that you can't be like someone with tons of friends. It's just more that, it's important to have very deep friendships and deep bonds. So Mars is squaring three, it's squaring Moon, Sun, Venus. So that's important because that's just showing that it's important for you to work out or to have some kind of physical outlet or creative outlet, or else, there can be temper tantrums, that can lead to, isolation. And like, when you're off balance, right? And I said with Earth, it can be there, one can lose their balance. Um, yeah, different issues can come up around that. So yeah, that's just one thing to look at. But with the relationship stuff, like I said, Moon and Scorpio, they need that depth. They it's kind of soulmate or nothing type energy, but like at the same time, with that North Node in Aries in the first house and the Mars in Aquarius, there's this energy of like, okay, I want something very, very, very close. I'm never gonna tell you like what signs. Like, I don't, like, I'm not like, there's not a sign that works good for anyone. You can date someone from any sun sign. It's about like the whole compatibility package. But basically, as a personality profile, I mean, a lot, like, so many different types of people can work with different types of people. But like, it's, I guess, like, when it comes to relationships, you have a certain intensity, but like, I'm not gonna say like, maybe maybe Earth energy or a really balanced, laid back energy balances it out. So that's what I'm saying. It's like, but really, like I guess what I would say is that just the implications that having all this Scorpio energy would have in relationships. It can't be a pussy. It cannot be a pussy. It cannot be someone who's afraid to go there to the darkness, right? And not that you're dark. It's just like because the first house is very, very light, but the identity, like, and also someone with such heavy first house placements, they have to watch out for kind of like the it's all about me energy, right? Even though this is super, super important, it is okay for you to be selfish in this lifetime because you've had so many past lives where you were unselfish and too unselfish, which kept you away from your creative potential and like really, 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 you know, really, really getting there, um, kind of. what's the word I'm looking for? Really, maximizing your creative potential. Ah. So, in some respects, it's very important for you to not make the same mistake. Mm. So there can also be like, you know, being a square Mars, people sometimes they can expect too much from their partners and be like, there can be a lot of impatience that comes out in love. But it reflects like a impatience that the person has with themselves a lot of times. So once that's kind of overcome, things get easier. Um, but yeah, what was the post I said? It was like Scorpio is about darkness. Um, shit, I can't remember it. Like people relate Scorpio to darkness, but Scorpio is just about honesty, and it sees, and the world is very, very dark. It's a very, very dark place right now. I forget the words. I'm totally butchering my own post. I should just read it. I'm sure you saw it. You got a lot of love. Scorpio is associated with darkness, but really Scorpio is just deeply aware of the truth, and the current truth is dark, very, very dark. So yeah, that speaks for itself. And often it comes from, so like okay, here's, thank God I remember to say this. So with Scorpio, right? Because like a lot of times they are, okay, so yeah, exactly where I thought you'd have it. So because sometimes they feel this darkness really early on, a lot of their healing is around their inner child because they have to a lot of times grow up very fast, and they don't really get to just be their goofy self. And because they're such, so for you, your Chiron's in Gemini, which means that your healing is around your potential, most likely your like at some point in time, because of how deeply and intensely you think, right? With your 29-degree master Mercury in Scorpio, right? Um, you'd be interested in very, 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 beneath the surface, like not non-superficial, profound topics that perhaps that there was a time, and it's an unaspected Mercury, right? So you wouldn't be someone who would necessarily hold back from saying what you want to say. So, but what can happen is with the Chiron, until that's healed in Chiron and Gemini, and I see so many of my clients have that, is a lot of times they get the message internally that something with either they're unintelligent or think something about their thinking is flawed, usually from like the family or the early schooling. And it's bullshit, right? But it's just, more of like someone who's, not just, with the Aquarius and Scorpio, someone who's deep and who's unconventional and rebellious. Mars in Aquarius is rebellious. So and then yeah, so just that Scorpio energy there. Um, that ultimately, the Scorpio Mercury is ultimately really related to, it's related to the Scorpio Mercury, like I said, it can also make your speech very, very intense and potentially dark too. So Scorpio Mercury is sometimes that, they're great researchers. They're really, really good at becoming obsessed with a topic and being very resourceful and um but yeah, sometimes like people like that's just a theme for the very Scorpionic person, is that they're the natural alchemists, but sometimes people can't keep up with them. Like I said, people sometimes just want the fluffy, buffy version of life, and that's not the reality. So, so yeah, I mean that's very, very important, is just to know that as a 29 degree Scorpio, like that's a high level, 29 degrees Scorpio Mercury, that's a high level of intelligence. Very, very high level of intelligence. Um, I don't know. I could totally see you just having like lame haters that have, that kind of like have tried to like pull you down in your life, and that just having been, maybe that having been a theme. Um, I see that a lot with Scorpio people. And the thing with Scorpio too is that, like, everyone knows that it creates, like a lot of Scorpios like can become quite vengeful. And that can be a challenge too, is that they have to like really figure out like how to not just be people that kind of take the bait per se. Um, Ceres conjunct the sun also, that so you have these really nice aspects, right? Because you have Venus conjunct the moon and Ceres conjunct the sun. So that actually gives your Scorpio sun and moon. The Venus on the moon gives it a way more nurturing feel, and the Ceres also does on gives the sun. So like it does actually like make your Scorpio energy, even though there's a lot of it, it's less of like a like super dark, like it can get there, it can get dark, but it's very like state like, for helping people. Um, but yeah, it's very, very deep, obviously. But I think that like having the Venus on the moon for a Scorpio moon, it like adds so much happiness usually, to a Scorpio moon, and so much like it's such an auspicious placement because Venus rules, everything nice in life, right? The good life, beauty. So if you add Venus beauty to the moon emotions, and the moon's in Scorpio, which can make, someone subject to very like intense ups and downs in their life, then you can imagine, what can happen, right? It can like, those ups and downs will still exist, but not at the level that they would before, and they'll be, dimmed down a lot more easy to work with. Venus and Scorpio people, so Venus in Scorpio is, so it's trine Jupiter, so it's amazing. So that actually gives a lot of self-confidence. That's really well. So even your Venus is well aspected. So this is very interesting because all of your, all of your Scorpio planets are well aspected. Even your ascendant, it just has this very strong planets rising. It has Neptune sextile, so that adds like kind of intuitive abilities, psychic abilities potentially. I don't really like using that word, but just like a real dreaminess and softness. So it's a lot. It's a very, very. It's Scorpio, but there's a lot of softness there. Mm, I'm just thinking. So I think that there's also an element that I haven't spoken of about money in the idea of physical versus metaphysical value, which I talk about quite a bit. So when it comes to Scorpio, obviously, like, there's a need to like it's related to alliances and the other people's resources. But then with your second house Saturn and Uranus and um what I've seen a lot with second house Saturn is that there can be this feeling, whether the person comes from poverty or not, of emotional, like they I okay, I have several family members with this. Have had lots of clients, and a lot of times what I see is that there is some type of restriction early on when it comes to money, and self-esteem as well. And they have to work really, really hard. And then when they become successful, inevitably, like there can be this tendency, this potential for like overworking. And then when they're overworking, they're still not enjoying their money. Like they worked so hard to make this money, and then they're like not allowing themselves to enjoy it. And it's like, okay, well, what's the point, right? I understand, obviously, saving, right? I get it. Like, I understand you want to save, you want to invest, blah, blah, blah. But I think that there's a certain level to where it gets a little bit crazy. And I've noticed a lot of people with that placement now. Most of these people are non-spiritual people, right? Who don't believe astrology or don't look into it or whatever. So it's important to know that, right? To know that Uranus there can make the income, like it can make it so there's different times in your life where you're doing really, really well, and then it switches up, right? Oh my God, why is my phone just going off? That was weird. Like legit scared me. Okay, I need to look one thing up. Interesting. Yeah, so the key with that, right, is to understand that in essence, when your values are based on your high spiritual, high scorpionic, death, rebirth, transformation, and you're not too much in this in like the materialistic kind of second house energy, Taurus energy, then you win, right? Um, but things can really be up and down and kind of ungrounding, and it's a real test, right? It's a real test. Also, interestingly, you have your Uranus conjunct my moon, so that means I can give you like through my speaking, you're able to get downloads, like even if it's not even me saying it. Um, that's a cool one. I activate your Uranus somehow with my moon. That's cool. That is cool. So you have Antares on Saturn. Antares is one of the great stars. And actually, Saturn conjunct Antares can create someone that can be materialistic. Um, it can create enemies. Um, it's important, very, very important to be very honest. In any kinds of dealings, and also when it comes to spirituality, to really, really, yeah, like it just like but it helps to have this this energy of Scorpio, because you'll recognize any kind of traps. So, okay, so I want to get to love stuff. In Venus in turn this on. So okay, so you have Venus retrograde natal, right? Um, so that's a very karmic placement, and basically what it does, right, is that in that mixed with it being kind of close to the sun, like I said, it adds a lot of lightness to the Scorpio darkness. But like the main thing people are seeing is still that ascendant conjunct Pluto rising, right? So you are an embodiment of Pluto. So like if you're an embodiment of Pluto, you're an embodiment of like, you know, when like of change, you know, your embodiment of the Pluto and Scorpio generation, all about seeing like, you know, calling people out for their bullshit, you know, and the truth, right? You're an embodiment of the truth. Um, but yeah, just like so the thing is like there's like I was saying, there's these extreme highs and lows, and it can be very dramatic, you know, lots of intensity. So there's that need for that channel, you know, that need for that channel. Um, and you know what's good about you know your North Node Aries with the Sun and Pluto aspect is that people with that they have a like a ton of personal power, and it's usually pretty easy for them. So I would say that one actually really makes up for your lack of fire, because this is in the first house too, the house of Aries, right? Um, so yeah, it's easy for Sun conjunct Pluto people to feel very powerful within themselves and to get rid of people. But yeah, once again, like transformation is the key. You know, it's the key of your life. That's why you're here. You're here to transform. You're here like a Pokemon to evolve. But yeah, I'm just kind of kind of going over these things, right? Before I jump fully into the Venus stuff. Um, so yeah, like the moon with Venus, as I said, it just makes one very popular. Like it's really good for, you know, like attracting company, attracting friends, great for spirituality, you know, for enjoying music, the arts, nature, fashion, whatever it is that you're into, right? It's good for money too. You know, having like so Venus with the sun, you know, Venus with the moon and the sun, it's good for that. More the sun, but um, yeah, it's just very gentle and loving, you know. So and affectionate. So but like Venus with the you know sun and moon, it can also make it so the person can be easily hurt. And I think Venus with the moon, um, you know, usually that like that would speak. You don't have like it's interesting that like that kind of offsets some of that Pluto energy and when it comes to your parents. So I am not making a prediction on your relationship with your parents. They're just like usually with that Pluto Hades energy, there's some type of generational curse or tendency, but you know, it's a new moon, so like, you know, your sun and your moon are the same sign. So if you're a ship, you know, with two, if you're metaphorically a ship with two captains, they're both going in the in the same direction, actually. So that makes things easier. And then with your ascendant as the third captain, that's also going. So all three, you know. Um, so yeah, you're an example, and yeah, so you're really meant to be an example for others to on when it comes to you know how to transform. So okay, should I talk about this now? Well, also, yeah, Jupiter trying your moon, like and your sun, that's so amazing. Because basically, you know, your Jupiter's in Pisces. Yeah, okay, yeah. So in fifth house Jupiter is it's like so good for being able to have fun, for being able to let go. And Jupiter in Pisces is like the super spiritual person, right? And so artistic. They can expand, they have amazing compassion, amazing empathy, all they're natural healers. They're teachers that they're spiritual teachers, potentially, right? And they can, you know, fifth house Jupiter is also very good for children. Um, it can make one very, very fortunate and lucky in terms of their kids and just their ability to like let go and have fun, very high. So that's really good as a Scorpio, right? Scorpio needs that because Scorpio can be overly serious. But like I said, you have Venus and Jupiter aspecting your sun, your moon. Like that is the best karma ever. Like Jupiter is going to give you that perspective, right? Emotional perspective on your moon, on your you know, it gives you makes someone optimist. So it adds a lot of optimism to this Scorpio energy. It's also adventurous. It's also, yeah, someone who's willing to take risks and healthy risks, right? And Scorpio moon, which is usually way more introverted and sticking to themselves and kind of oftentimes seeing the negative or thinking of like the negative in people, like this, um, you know, it adds like a lot of lightness. So you have a lot. You're like the lightest, like what's the word for like not quad like quincunxial, whatever that word is. Uh, quincunxial, I don't know. Tropio, Scorpio, Tropio. Yeah, you're a Trophio. But so Sun and Jupiter, that's just like you're yeah, great for popularity. It's great for expansion, like or for attracting abundance. It's just like if you're too obsessed with the material, that's when the karma, the bad money karma will hit you. But with the Jupiter energy, there is and the Venus there too. Like it's great, but sometimes people with that, it's like there are these amazing creative talents too, but sometimes they can be a little bit self-indulgent. That's the only thing. So making sure that's not happening. But like Jupiter trying Venus, is it it's up there in the best aspects in astrology, and also these Jupiter trying Sun and Moon, like they're all three of those are up there as like the most beautiful, like amazing aspects to have. So it's like you have this deep Scorpio energy, right? But then you have it like aspected so amazingly with the two best, most positive planets. So just like, wow, you know, that's something. That's definitely something. And yeah, I'm curious how that plays out in your life because um, oftentimes we see Scorpio just so intense and off-putting for many, but I just can't imagine that being the case for you. So let's see. But yeah, like I said, it can be complacent. There can be sometimes like too much of a larger than life, too much of like a larger than life idea, I guess you could say. So it's just like, yeah, it's just like don't be lazy, or don't be complacent. Um, all right, but yeah, so that's gonna give you lots of luck too with lovers. But Venus retrograde sometimes they can like be too they can be codependent and they can be too like basing their happiness off of like how they are in a relationship, which when you're living in your South Node, that's kind of what can happen in South Node in Libra, right? Where it can be like, too much of the like so you want to be in your North Node, right? You want to be transforming, evolving. So or excuse me, you want to be like having independence and claiming your sovereignty. That's a great way to put it. And you know, not allowing other people to push you around, to be a people pleaser, a yes man, yes woman, I guess. So yeah, that's important. But Venus retrograde, we actually have Venus retrograde coming up very, very soon. So that's, you know, a time where, that's actually beneficial for you while it's very difficult for others. And yeah, so it can just kind of like push that Venus energy in a little bit. And yeah, people with that they just really have to they just really have to like move away from that stuff from that from the tendency to be too like too relationship oriented. Like you can literally ask some people and normally they would have because like Scorpio also, like I said, it's the eighth house. It's about relationships too. So sometimes they can be they can be like too much on the like with like the whole twin flame thing, which I'm not dissing. I'm just saying that like a lot of times the lesson is like, being happy alone. Not, but like it has no bearing on like whether you're, meant to be in relationships or not. Like I would say yes, Jupiter trine, with a lot of the energy there. But like you're definitely one of your big goals in this life is to be happy or be able to live alone, and then in relationships to still keep your independence. But also with Venus retrograde, there can be like a psychological difficulty in freely expressing feelings of love and affection. So it's all about self-love, because there can be like a feeling of lacking emotional fulfillment, and then from that, like trying to find God in the partner, and like life is good or bad based on how good the relationships are going. A lot of people with Venus retrograde, they can like exaggerate, internalize hurts very, very deeply. And from a karmic perspective, there's the soul is carrying memories of past life relationships, often painful. And it's the thing is that there's a karmic misunderstanding of the nature of love, but not just love, self-love, and the person therefore has to really learn about that in this lifetime. So sometimes people with this will like kind of jeopardize relationships to kind of like self-sabotage them, to cut themselves off from experiencing love, because they feel in their soul being hurt. And Scorpio, water sign, another thing about like having so much water is that like you expect, oh, they're gonna be so, of course you're gonna be sensitive, but like sometimes people with this like so much water, it's too much, and they cut themselves off, right? They cut themselves off, and they just become like the ultimate repressors. So, I see that more with Cancer and hold up. Cancer and Pisces, and Neptune, but yeah, it's a possibility. So, what else about Venus retrograde? Yeah, just like blocking themselves from happiness. But it's really good for creativity, and it's another one that gets better. People with Venus retrograde who had animals when they're younger, they really benefit. And in the present too. But it's like really, because it really helps them like learn to love freely without any, you know, expectations, and just about love, right? And sometimes there's really real issues with like just like a wrong understanding of love. Maybe it was conditional in past life, maybe there's some pain, right? A lot of things. um so, and then Venus in the first, that is someone who can express beauty very well, right? Who's attractive, has a kind of, like I say, it's like this dark, but still like it could be quite seductive. We'll see if there's any asteroids. I have a feeling there's gonna be some of these asteroids. We'll see when I pull those up. Okay, talk about that. Talk about that. Talk about that. So okay, so your ideal partner is me. Joking, but no, but your Juno is right with your Uranus. Interesting. That's Juno's like your ideal partner. So yeah, I mean, but no, I'm playing. But so the Scorpio part I already said. That there's one part that's very, very, very close, very, very just like watery, like two souls becoming one. Um, you know, the Scorpio side at least needs someone who can understand their intensity. I'm not saying you need someone who's like just filled with water, but you know, like if you were dating like someone who just was like all Aries and Leo, it'd be very hard for you and them to. I would imagine. I mean, anything can work in anything can work if the two souls love each other enough. Sometimes souls choose to be very, very different astrologically. But yeah. So let's see here. Da, 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 da. Also, you have Mars trying Chiron. That makes you like a very, very active healer and someone who kind of heads towards their healing in a head-on way. I could see, yeah, writing, creativity, like communicating, being able to really like when you're able to like let go through writing and through communicating, and just your mind in general having this real intuitive power. But also there can be the potential to like get lost in your thoughts and mix your thoughts with mix yourself with other people's thoughts and like lack boundaries in that type of way. So it's important to know that when you're like in a certain environments and around certain people, to just know like that osmosis can happen. But with I was talking about the Juno and the Uranus, so that speaks like Juno in Sag would speak to someone who is looking like ideal partner, is giving lots of freedom, is very philosophical. Maybe they're from a different country, and Uranus speaks, yeah, it speaks even more to that freedom and that unconventionality, right? That the ideal relationship would most likely have. Um, so you add that with the Scorpio part, which is obviously a lot more like interpersonal, a lot more close, a lot more no secrets, like just best soul friends, all that stuff. And you add the Mars and Aquarius adds to this this aspect of the freedom part, and the descendant being in Taurus is speaking to potentially being attracted to it's kind of like similar but different to the Scorpio, it's the opposite sign, but like to stability. Maybe that's like the sign Taurus is something that helps you. Um, and you know, also I don't believe this, but there's one astrologer who made a post who's like, your Jupiter sign is your wife or husband. I'm like, okay, mine's Cancer. Like, I've never ever even dated a Cancer, and it's not for me at all. Um, my girlfriend's Scorpio, but yeah. So I don't believe her, but your Jupiter's in Pisces, so who knows? But yeah. So that's kind of like the love breakdown. We'll see if there's any asteroids. Um, so yeah, you definitely like I think for work, like anything like entrepreneurial, like where you can really shine is very important. Midheaven Leo, or ruled by the sun, the first house. First house is about like the self, so entrepreneurship would work really well. I think anything that's transformative, where you can that gives you that depth in your career, is very, very would be very good. Where you can use that real intellect, deep intellect, um, and creativity, and also like that very intuitive mind. Um, anything artistic too, like yeah. But you have to watch out for getting a scattered mind, and with the lack of Earth, like it's very important to have like a regime, like a very like as consistent as you can. Like I mean, I have no Earth, but like for me, it's like okay, I work out when I feel like it, but like I try to do it. I don't drink alcohol very often, very few times a year. I used to drink a lot. It's like little things like that that add up, and that end up creating, like really creating you, right? Um, so not creating, but defining in a sense, right? So yeah, yeah, that's the six, so like that's actually good for like that organization and work life and like in Aries. It's like, yeah, the very entrepreneurial, like wanting best when left to your own devices. Mars and Aquarius, fourth house, like, you know, yeah, yeah, that's cool. And then Black Moon Lilith is in, well, actually, no, Vertex is in Cancer. It would be in the eighth. I'm gonna go to the ninth. So yeah, I mean that would just speak to your doorway to higher awareness being through the the sign, like in times of stress, like energy, like Cancer energy. People with Cancer energy can be very, very good with you. It can also just give you like you know, like this ability to really understand emotions, and it actually makes the public really love you if you're doing anything public, and being able to like really feel like a lot of empathy for other people. So obviously, like I said, it can be like a double-edged sword to be like so aware like the dark and sad side of the world, but um protecting your energy is really important, and learning not to like take on other people's, as a healer, shit is really important. um and yeah, like also like it can be linked to like mediumship abilities, right? And give you a deep connection with the sea, rivers, any kind of water. So yeah, like even like living like, yeah, really close to water on an island could be really good, and it kind of opens up the intuition. And yeah, you'll also be drawn to people who can like help you like put your ideas into um form. Wait, where's yeah. Okay, so Black Moon Lilith, that's kind of like your lowest vibe. It's not a planet, so it's not something that necessarily exists. So we'll talk about part of fortune, and then Black Moon Lilith. They're very different. Um, so Black Moon Lilith, like I said, it's your lowest vibe. It's really good to know about your self-defeating behavior. So it's in Gemini, um, in the eighth. So um, you know, I would say that one is just like it's a potential for like revealing details of your life that, like it's better to keep them secret. Um, so you know, and yeah, so it can also make one like, kind of attract like the darker elements of society, especially being a Scorpio, unless until you work, you kind of like and also it can make things, like challenges, financial challenges, if you take like stupid risks with money. But you know, it's all like once again a presentation for you to face your own emotional, and kind of like, like the whole thing I talked about a million times with Scorpio. So in Gemini, there's that gift of gab for sure. But sometimes people with that can, they should not lie. They should not try to overtalk and kind of like talk people around to their way of thinking. Like it can make you, I've seen this one like lead to people have issues with listening. Like they sometimes want to over like talk too much and like wait their time, that kind of vibe. I'm not saying that's you, I'm just saying it's potential. Um and sometimes they don't notice it. So it's all about like awareness, right? Um and sometimes, yeah, there can just be just like an like just yeah, it's just like really about respecting other people's points of view, and sometimes it can just make someone like very um you know argumentative, and they just want to have the last word. And when you're talking to someone, and you just know like they're not even arguing with you, like you're having a discussion, you're willing to change your opinion. That's the potential of it, right? But the key is, if that shows up at all, to be able to recognize it. And it's just like there's always that exchange of giving and taking on an energetic level, right? So it's about having, balance there. Now, if you break it down to a fear, it's fear of rejection, right? A lot of times it's like this fear of other people's opinions. So, there's that desire to want to be accepted, liked by everyone. So sometimes they can reject people before they even, and I said this earlier, right? Before they even get the chance to get rejected, right? And there can also be like focusing too much on other people when it comes to like defining what their individuality is. And I thank God you have Mars and Aquarius, which is not like that, right? But um, there can sometimes be too much of like a need for other people's approval, which you don't need that. And yeah, so part of fortune is in the 12th. Oh, I already talked about it, didn't I? In Libra. So, that's like where you kill him in life. And it's like, yeah, 12th house is, yeah, it's aligning with your kind of innermost self. Brings the best, that's where you can kill like spiritual life, like being of service in your life. Like living your life like with a real spiritual purpose day to day, or just in general. That's great. And then Libra, when you create that, so that could be very good as a healer too, or just when you create any kind of sense of harmony with humans, like that feeling of belonging, it brings a lot of greatness. And then having Pallas in the 12th in Libra too, makes you able to, in the 12th, really really communicate spiritual teachings and understand them on a deep level, kind of innately. And then it might be in your path to like really teach spirituality and some or things that you learn that are, yeah. And the beauty of Pallas in Libra is that you can really really see and feel both sides of the story, and that comes to the South Node too. So it's like a very diplomatic placement. Ceres and Scorpio, no surprise, you feel nurtured and cared for when there's like intensity and lots of focus on you, and you're able to really focus on other people and very, very deeply emotionally committed people around you, with lots of trust and loyalty. And in the first house, it gives once again a very warm nature. Um, yeah, and it's with the sun, so it's like right on the sun. It's 0.03 away, which is crazy. It's so close. Um, so yeah, more on that. It's like you're able to really, um, what's the word? Um, you're able to really nurture like the masculine and the feminine side of you. Um, and sometimes with this, there could have been like some sense of loss during childhood, um, which pushes you to like want to be independent and whatnot. And you become very, very good at nurturing yourself, being your own parent. But yeah, it just creates like a very good synergy between masculine and feminine. And it's very good for spirituality. It makes someone who can really benefit from escaping kind of like the kind of 9 to 5 material world. Um, so yeah, it's also, yeah, great for beauty, great for like anything with like the natural world too. Okay, so moving forward, what have we not talked about? Talk about that, talk about that, talk about that, talk about that. Okay, so we are, okay, so let's pull up these bad boys. Let's see if we got any of these. Okay, yeah, Alfeca with the moon. It's probably not gonna be. So lust with Neptune can make you very mysterious, like kind of like lust is about sexiness. Next Neptune is, it could be like a very mysterious kind of sexiness, I would imagine. Like I've never heard of that combination, but that's what how I would denote it. Um, Hi Mika. Ooh, you have Urania, which is the no, we can't, not right now. It's the asteroid of astrology on your midheaven, so you could be an astrologer for your career. It's 6 degrees, but still, there. Not smack on there, but it's there. Oh, that's actually closer to 5 degrees, 5.5. So that's like, something. Okay. All right, so let's just look this up. The Alphecca is like one of the best asteroids. Let's see, pull up my Scorpio list. 11, 9. What's a crux? Okay, Alphecca. So Alphecca with the moon. It's really good for public. So we've seen that, like public honor. And yeah, it just gives a very splendid, illustrious life. It's very, it's a great star. It's actually related to this kind of celebrity, like just like, really, really high success publicly. So, um, and greatly esteemed by Venus and Mercury people. So by very beautiful, and very smart people, and very beautiful and smart, beautiful slash just like, good vibe, good kind of energy people. All right, that is it. So did you get, well, let me check for you real quick. Yeah, so you have to follow. So let me know. Most people, what they do is that they get what you got already. So the follow is 1 hour where we, just talk about everything we talked about today. Um, and most people, what they do is they add the current astrology reading. So instead of just 1 hour, it's usually 2 hours extra. It's live. It's not a long wait, as this was a wait list. That one we just put it, next thing on my schedule after you're ready. If you want to do it, and I'll give you a big discount. Um, so let me know. And yeah, so it would be, I can just tell you now. I need to actually know. I would give it, so I would let you do it for, so the normal price is 37, or no, well, 370 is the sell price, but it's usually 500. That's like the price is 500 on sale for 370. I would do it for 300. So yeah, let me know if you want to add that. It's really interesting. We talk about the year plus ahead. This reading that you just received, you get this done once in your life. That's it. Terminando, finished, it's done. I mean, you can have other astrologers read your chart, but ultimately, um, you know, current astrology is always affecting us, right? And right now I can just look at your chart and tell you that you are going to be having Pluto's, which has just entered Aquarius, squaring your ascendant, for the next few years. And that's gonna be intense as fuck. So I would recommend it, but no pressure, up to you. Also Pluto in the next year is gonna be on your IC. Lots of shadow work, but I don't like make like crazy predictions like you're gonna meet your soulmate at this time or whatever. Like, yeah, for me it's like astrology is like weather, energetic weather, right? So if I can get you to understand the archetypal weather of what to expect, then I can help benefit you and give you an idea of kind of like what's to come. Anyways, thank you so much and talk soon. Let me know over DM if you want to do that reading. All right.